Welcome, Perennial Pride listeners. Tom Suvansri here with another episode of the Perennial Pride podcast. Excited to cover a topic here I think is probably near and dear to most people's hearts, is around freedom and control. We think about our lives. I think everyone would say, hey, I want freedom and control of my life, where it's going, to get to do what I want to do each day with the people I want to be around and when I want to do it, right? To have that little freedom. How crazy and exciting would that be to do that on a daily basis? We have been somewhat trained in our lives to defer some of that, right? We go to school, get a job, and hopefully you get a job you do enjoy. But, there is certainly a number of people who are working jobs maybe that it's a means to an end, right? They may not love it. They deal with the bureaucracy or whatever comes with it because they're doing the best they can for their families and building wealth in the way that we've been taught in a conventional way. And sometimes that produces less control of our lives because we are maybe stuck at a job we dislike, or we are deferring the use of our money till future years when we can, spend the time like we want. And unfortunately, although we don't talk about it all that much or think about it, if we did, we'd probably be depressed all the time. But we are mortal. And, there's that Ben Franklin saying, there's nothing certain but death and taxes. And taxes, we'll talk about another podcast. We've done that others, but we are mortal. And you can either think about it in a negative sense that, we're going to depart this earth, I like to think it more positively. Okay, well, if I know that I'm going to die, and how do I spend each day living a life with purpose and life with enjoyment and fulfillment? How do I ensure that I treat people the way, especially the ones I love, in the way that I would want? And it pushes me to become better in that way. And it's just a different perspective on it. And so for people who are sort of trying to maximize their lives and have freedom in life, it requires us to maybe take some action steps and assess what's happening. And when we think about it from a financial sense, and obviously that's one piece of it, we talk about financial freedom, is having the resources to help us live the lives we want. That's really the heart of it. So, the typical financial advice will say you defer that, and then someday you get to enjoy the things you get to enjoy later in life when I'm in retirement, no longer working. Well, we're not guaranteed to get there. And so how do we live our lives today and maybe design our financial strategy so we have more freedom to choose what we want to do on a daily basis and not have to wait till later stages? So today I want to cover some basic topics, two models that will maybe help you think through maybe a different approach to building that financial freedom, because we are our number one assets. And while we're living, growing, and working, obviously, we're our biggest asset to produce income to live our lives. But throughout life, right, we can build assets to maybe replace that. And so I want to just share two models with you that maybe helps you see maybe a different path to build that financial freedom. So let me share my screen here. And the one model that I think is typical with, and sorry for folks who are maybe listening to this podcast, I'll try to explain this in a much more detailed fashion, but there's two models. One, which is typical accumulation model. And this is born out of taking our money and putting it in places that we don't get to use till later. So in the model, whether you're working a job and creating income in some fashion, it could be your business, but for this, we're taking it as a job, that as money flows into our lives, one, they get, our taxes are withheld. So government wants to make sure they get their piece. So they're going to take that first before we get to use it. And then what we're often taught is put it into things like 401k plans and IRAs to save for retirement someday, whether 59 and a half or later, to use. And for some people, that makes sense, right? We got to get it out of our world so that we don't use it. So there is suddenly some benefit to it, but it's tucked away for later. And we can't use that without penalties. And obviously we have to pay taxes on that later. And so money goes into the next bucket is banks, right? We send our money to banks and we're basically loaning our money to them, and they get to use that while it's stored there. And then we obviously use that to live our lifestyle, right? We use our lifestyle and we We do things like pay for our insurances, our housing, and pay for our other taxes that may come about, in the form of property taxes, things like that. But we use our dollars to live our lifestyle, right? And maybe some additional dollars are going into other investments, like maybe a brokerage account or buying other stocks and bonds. So similar, maybe assets that we have in our 401k. And maybe those kick off some level of dividends here and there that it get taxed as well and come back to as income that we can use too. But by and large, most of our money comes into our lives, gets siphoned away either through the IRS or sitting in government plans like 401k and IRA. And then we use the rest to live our lifestyle and supply our lives. And then money is being accumulated on the side. And it's not really bringing us tremendous amounts of income today, but it's saved up for later. Now, granted, I agree that we should be saving money along the way and to use for later paths, but we'll go into the next model where we can hopefully generate some income. Because right now, this model in its current state does not really work for everyone. I mean, and it's creating a lot of what I can say financial leaks in people's lives. You're paying a lot in terms of excess taxes along the way and building up a massive tax burden for down the road. Paying a lot of interest to banks. I mean, we're highly indebted today to through credit cards or borrowing from financial institutions. How can we recapture some of those dollars by maybe using our money a little bit differently? Fees along the way, right? Obviously, our money in these accounts are generating fees on top of fees, and they're compounding as our assets grow. And we may be paying for insurance premiums that we'll never use these dollars. And so making sure that we're optimally protecting our income, assets, and wealth smartly, and but nothing in excess. So, and then lastly, all the losses that are generated from some of these buckets create what I would say the worst case of this is opportunity costs. Those dollars that leave your environment no longer can produce for you forever. So those are significant opportunity costs that are created by this model. And so we end up deferring a lot of our lives into places that unfortunately we may not get there. And so how do we design our financial lives so that we have more freedom control over dollars today and get them working harder? And that's where it gets into this concept of the velocity of money. And the velocity of money, it starts in a similar way, right? With our incomes and our jobs and such. And we could be putting money away, certainly for 401ks, but when we're putting our money into banks, instead of just spending all of it, we're diverting money into our own sort of family bank. And that is, we've had plenty of other episodes around this family bank concept. It's just a better storage facility for our safe dollars that we want to accumulate and save, and provides us protections on top of it from a massive death benefit that covers us in case we don't make it to the end, right? We die prematurely. But instead of just using our dollars flowing to our family bank, which is much more efficient and provides some tax benefits, is that we're using those dollars to fund assets and create assets, whether it's buying rental properties or buying businesses or pieces of businesses or starting our own, right? Or doing it through private lending, where we can create cash flow, putting it in things like personal development that will increase the value for our jobs or our businesses. And then there's a whole host of things of alternative investments, but really at the heart of what they do is they create positive cash flow back to us, right? In the form of monthly checks or quarterly, annual checks that come to us and that we can funnel back into our family bank here, right? And this, it perpetuates the creation of assets and income, right? And the real goal of this too is to create cash flow that could support your basic daily living. And when you get to that mode, and it takes time for sure, but if you could do that, then you have the ability to say, is my job fulfilling enough for me to stay with it? Or is there another passion I have that I can pursue because I have other streams of income coming in from other sources today, not waiting till I'm 60 or 65 or whatever magic number for retirement is, that you can actually start shifting that and focusing on areas that you have passion for and you want to spend time on, and can dictate how you get to spend your days because you have ample supply of income coming in from not just you and your ability to earn, but from assets, physical assets that are bringing you cash, right, on a monthly basis and can help support your life. And that gives you more control, freedom of what you get to do every day because you don't have to stay at your job if you don't want to. If you do, if you love it, do that, right? That's great. But if you don't, or you want to have other pursuits you want to explore, this gives you that opportunity and option to do that, right? Because you have income that's coming in now, not when I'm 65. And this is the beauty of this model is to start doing that. And it just so happens in a lot of these different areas too, it ends up gives you other benefits like reducing costs on certain things like taxes, and it puts you in control of some of your assets, which hopefully reduces your risk. And you can take ownership of the banking function in your life if you understand how to do this and control some of the financing arm because they're making a significant amounts of money off of our money. We can use that same model for ourselves. And the big thing here is it's getting dollars to do more than one job, which is, typical of the accumulation model. You put them in different parts of your money in certain areas, and they do one job and aren't as efficient as they could be. Here, we're getting our dollars to work in multiple spots at the same time. And really at the heart of this is building cash flow, increasing our cash flow now, not later. And we're not deferring the enjoyment and use of our dollars until someday when we're freer and we're much older. So how do we do that today so we can live a life we really want every day? Because we are not guaranteed tomorrow. We're not guaranteed 50 years from now. So why not try to create a lifestyle that you want so you can control your days and enjoy more of your wealth and live each day with more purpose and fulfillment. So I hope this was helpful. I thought this was a quick little snippet to share around just a different model around wealth building that is typically not shared because we were often taught how to put money in places that are being controlled by others and stuck in places until someday we get to use it. I really highly encourage you to think about how we can create income now, other streams of income now, so that you can have more options and choices to start doing the things you want to do on a daily basis, not when you're in your 60s. So hopefully this was helpful. If this is something that resonates with you, certainly reach out. Love to chat, see how I can help. You go down this different path and explore it because it's definitely a much more freeing sort of situation and get your money to do way more for you so you can live the life that you want. Take care, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Perennial Pride Podcast. Thanks for joining me on this episode today. I really am grateful for you as listeners to the Perennial Pride Podcast. I hope you're getting some tremendous value out of it and hopefully pushing you along your journey to financial freedom. I put this podcast together really to help you get more educated around your finances so that you feel empowered to live the life that you really want. And if you like the content that you heard today or watched, then I would encourage you to go to my website, perennialpride.com. There's tons of other content there. And you can access my book, Wealth Beyond the Numbers. You can buy it there on my website. It's a aggregation of a lot of great tips and tools I've learned to not only build my wealth in my accounts, but build wealth in my life and abundance and joy, and something that has a lot of my experiences in the journey that I've been on personally. Hopefully that can be also of value to you as you sort of move forward. So thanks again for being a Perennial Pride listener, and we'll see you on the next episode.